These are the 7 signs you have the weakest personality type, and the world already knows it. But stay until the end, because every one of these weaknesses has a Machiavellian reversal that can turn you into someone unrecognizable. By the end of this video, you're going to learn how to take each of these 7 weak traits and turn them into the strongest versions of yourself, the Machiavellian way. Weakness doesn't appear suddenly, it creeps in. It settles quietly beneath your habits, your reactions, your fears. And most people never realize they're carrying the weakest personality type until life humiliates them enough to force a confrontation with truth. Today, that confrontation begins here. The first sign is emotional fragility, not sensitivity, fragility. There's a difference. Sensitivity means you feel deeply. Fragility means the world can shatter you with almost nothing. You break under small pressure. A comment punctures you. A minor inconvenience ruins your day. A difficult conversation sends you spiraling. You are not in control of your emotions. Your emotions control you. Worse, other people know it. And when people know your emotions are that easy to influence, you become predictable, manipulable, defeated before any conflict begins. Fragility is the personality's cracked glass. It reflects everything, but withstands nothing. This is not an insult. It is a diagnosis. Fragility often disguises itself as righteousness, moral superiority, or being in tune with your feelings. But Machiavelli understood a truth few accept. The more control the world has over your emotional state, the less control you have over your life. And if this description stings, don't panic. This weakness won't define you much longer. Later in this series, you'll learn exactly how to turn emotional fragility into disciplined resilience, the kind kings were built from. But for now, you must face the second sign of the weakest personality type, chronic people-pleasing. This is not kindness. This is not generosity. This is fear dressed as virtue. You bend yourself into shapes no one asked for. You say yes when your entire body screams no. You apologize for existing. You adjust your words, your tone, your decisions, your identity, just to avoid discomfort, conflict, or rejection. You're terrified of being disliked, so you barter your dignity for acceptance. You hand out pieces of yourself like free samples, hoping someone will finally approve of you. Machiavelli warned that pleasing everyone is not only impossible, it is the fastest way to lose yourself. And yet, here you are, molding your personality to match whoever stands in front of you. You become softer, smaller, quieter, safer. You become palatable, harmless, and eventually invisible. The world walks past you without noticing you ever existed. The tragedy isn't that people take advantage of you. The tragedy is that you leave the door unlocked for them and call it being nice. If this is uncomfortable to hear, good. That discomfort is your first step toward transformation. And remember, by the end of this series, you'll learn how to convert people-pleasing into something far more dangerous, boundary enforcement. You'll learn to speak without trembling, to deny without guilt, to stand without permission. But to get there, you must first accept the truth. People-pleasing is not love, it is surrender. Emotional fragility and chronic people-pleasing form the foundation of the weakest personality type. They make you easy to read, easy to pressure, easy to control. You react before thinking. You seek approval before purpose. You shrink before resistance. And each time you bend, you become weaker than before. But weakness only wins when you deny it exists. Awareness is the first crack in the cage. And right now, that cage is rattling. Here's the part most people never understand. Your weakness isn't who you are. It's who you've practiced being. You weren't born fragile. You weren't born terrified of disappointing people. These traits were learned, conditioned, repeated, reinforced. And anything learned can be unlearned. Anything conditioned can be reversed. Anything fragile can be reforged. So let this part settle into you like a blade sliding into its sheath. The weakest personality type begins with emotional fragility and people-pleasing. But transformation begins with awareness. And you're becoming aware right now. Because what comes next will expose even more. Signs 3, 4, and 5 will reveal just how deeply weakness has taken root and why most people never escape it. But you will. Stay with this series until the end, and these traits will not only be reversed, they will be weaponized. Weakness begins with surrender, but transformation begins with awareness. By the 4th sign, Your weakness stops feeling like confusion. It starts feeling like instability, not because your mind is failing, but because it is sharpening in ways you do not yet understand. This is the phase where your personality weakens, not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of control over that intelligence. You begin calculating without knowing you're calculating. You predict without knowing you're predicting. You anticipate outcomes long before you're emotionally ready to face them. And because you don't yet know how to wield this power, it turns inward and corrodes you. The fourth sign emerges quietly. Predictive thinking. You begin sensing things before they happen. You notice patterns in people's behavior long before they reveal their intentions. A tone of voice tells you a friendship is ending. A shift in someone's gaze tells you they are hiding something. A slight crack in a conversation tells you a relationship is dying. This should be strength, but in a weak personality, prediction becomes torment. You foresee outcomes you cannot prevent. You understand motives you cannot influence. You detect betrayals you don't yet have the courage to confront. Your mind becomes a storm of possibilities, calculations, and silent warnings, and you carry all of it alone. What should be a strategic gift becomes a psychological burden, because your awareness outpaces your emotional resilience. You see the battlefield, but you have no armor. And then the fifth sign takes hold: indifference to emotion. But not the kind born from dominance. This is the coldness of someone who has been overwhelmed for too long. You go still when others panic, not because you are strong, but because your system has shut down from overload. You look calm in chaos because your body refuses to let you feel any more shock. People may misinterpret this as composure, but it is not composure, it is numbness. A weak personality becomes indifferent, not through mastery, but through exhaustion. You stop reacting because reacting has never protected you. You stop explaining yourself because explanations have never saved you. You stop defending your emotions because no one has ever taken them seriously. Silence becomes your refuge, but also your cage. This is not emotional control, this is emotional depletion. And when that depletion becomes a habit, the sixth sign emerges: strategic patience. But again, not the empowering kind. Not yet. At this stage, your patience is passive, not deliberate. You wait not because you're calculating the perfect moment, but because you no longer believe your actions matter. You hesitate, you hold back, you delay decisions until circumstances decide for you. You call it patience because it feels noble, but it is fear disguised as virtue. A weak personality waits because action feels dangerous. You stay silent because speaking has backfired before. You avoid conflict because you've never won one. Your patience is the armor of someone who has been disappointed too many times to risk another blow. It is survival, not strategy. And yet here lies the paradox Machiavelli understood better than most. Even in its weakness, the mind learns. Even in fear, the mind observes. Even in hesitation, the mind sharpens. What feels like collapse is actually transformation in slow motion. Your predictive thinking grows more precise. Your emotional indifference becomes a shield. Your passive patience begins to resemble the early shape of strategic restraint. Weakness begins imitating strength, and little by little it becomes it. But before that transformation, there is a price. This is the most dangerous phase, because you are becoming smarter without becoming stronger. You can see the truth but cannot use it. You can analyze behavior but cannot confront it. You can read intentions but cannot defend against them. You become like a blade that has been sharpened but has no handle. You cut yourself more than others. And that is why people misunderstand you. They think your withdrawal is maturity. They think your silence is confidence. They think your patience is discipline. But inside, you feel hollow, stretched thin between clarity and collapse. Weak personalities often appear calm, not because they are steady, but because they have already been broken into stillness. This part of your evolution feels lonely, but it is necessary. A mind that sees too much must either learn control or drown in its own insight. And you are standing right at that threshold, where intelligence is refining itself, but stability has not yet caught up. This is the moment where your personality fractures. One part of you learns, adapts, anticipates. The other part waits, trembles, questions. And between those two states, a new identity begins to form. Machiavelli once wrote that the strongest men do not win by force, but by waiting for the precise moment when their enemy destroys themselves. But for you, this truth is still inverted. You wait, but not strategically. You endure, but not by choice. You observe, but without authority. You possess fragments of a powerful mind trapped inside a fragile character. You hold the early seeds of calculation, but you lack the confidence to plant them. Yet the transformation continues whether you want it to or not. Thought becomes colder. Intent becomes quieter. Reaction becomes slower. Emotion becomes something you evaluate before allowing yourself to feel. You begin moving through life like a strategist who has not yet learned he is one, seeing everything, influencing nothing, suffering more because of it. But this phase is not the end. It is only the transition. Because eventually the fragility breaks, the fear burns out, the hesitation collapses, and what remains is the architecture of a mind that can no longer be manipulated, guilt-tripped or controlled. The weakness begins dissolving into something sharper, something silent, something predictive, something that no longer reacts but chooses. This is when people stop understanding you and start fearing you. The seventh sign is the one that terrifies people, the moment you stop needing to defend yourself. Weak personalities crumble under judgment, chase validation, and speak only to be heard. But once your mind crosses this threshold, something changes. Your voice becomes unnecessary. Your explanations become rare. Your presence becomes heavier. This is the transition point where weakness stops collapsing inward and begins calcifying into something darker, quieter, more controlled. You step into a new form of intelligence that is not loud, not expressive, not emotional, but undeniably powerful. And yet, because you have not fully stabilized, this emerging authority feels like both a weapon and a threat. Quiet authority begins as a withdrawal. It starts when you finally realize there is no point proving yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. At first, this silence comes from fatigue. You are tired of repeating yourself, tired of arguing with fools, tired of watching your words be twisted by people who were never listening in the first place. But slowly, the silence changes flavor. It becomes intentional, not passive, deliberate. You stop engaging, not because you are afraid, but because you are done wasting your energy. You allow others to talk themselves into contradictions while you observe from a distance. You no longer step into chaos. You let chaos reveal who created it. Quiet authority is born the moment you realize that arguments win nothing, but observation wins everything. And it is here that people begin to fear you without understanding why. Weak personalities normally need reassurance, attention, or emotional validation, but you begin stepping out of that pattern. You let others expose their own flaws. You let their lies unravel without lifting a finger. Your silence becomes a mirror, and mirrors terrify those who have something to hide. You stop reacting, and suddenly people cannot predict you. You stop justifying, and suddenly people cannot control you. You stop explaining, and suddenly people cannot categorize you. This absence of reaction creates a psychological vacuum that others fill with their own insecurities. And from that vacuum, your invisible dominance begins. Then the eighth sign emerges, tactical withdrawal. But unlike before, when your disappearance was fueled by fear or discomfort, this withdrawal is strategic. You leave conversations before they turn toxic. You step away from arguments that don't serve you. You disappear from the lives of people who mistake your kindness for weakness. You no longer participate in battles that secure nothing. You let fools exhaust themselves, burn their own bridges, and demonstrate their incompetence without you ever raising your voice. A weak personality hides because it is wounded, but a rising mind withdraws because it refuses to waste ammunition on the unworthy. This is the first moment of real transformation, where intelligence stops being a burden and begins becoming leverage. You conserve energy for the war that matters, not the noise that surrounds it. You begin treating your attention like currency. You no longer give it to the trivial, the chaotic, or the emotionally undisciplined. And the effect of this is immediate. People start adjusting themselves around you. They speak more carefully. They hesitate before lying. They rethink their tone. They feel the weight of your presence because it cannot be manipulated. Your absence becomes as powerful as your presence used to be. And yet, you still feel the ghost of weakness inside you. The remnants of old patterns, the instinct to shrink, to hide, to avoid. But your mind is learning faster than your fears can keep up. You watch situations unfold with a kind of cold patience. You let people reveal their intentions before you decide whether they deserve your time. You notice how quickly the world exposes itself when you stop interfering, and somewhere in that stillness, you begin understanding a truth that Machiavelli shaped into strategy centuries ago. Power is never in the one who speaks the most, but in the one who observes the longest. A wise man never shows all his cards, only enough to make others reveal theirs. You begin holding your insights close, not because you're scared, but because you recognize their value. You speak less, and your silence becomes more expensive. You reveal less, and your privacy becomes intimidating. You offer less, and your presence becomes rare, and rare minds are always respected, feared or hated, never ignored. Quiet authority is not about domination, it is about clarity. Tactical withdrawal is not about fear, it is about precision. And the more you wield these two signs, the more your former weakness dissolves. You stop being predictable, you stop being manipulated, you stop being accessible to anyone who hasn't earned access. And as people try to guess your motives, interpret your stillness, or analyze your silence, something fascinating happens. They begin constructing myths around you. They fill in the blanks with their anxieties. They attribute to you strengths you have not even used yet. They sense depth where you are simply being careful. Intelligence becomes power, not when it speaks, but when it forces others to think. This is the phase where you become a presence that moves quietly, influences subtly, and impacts deeply. People start second-guessing themselves around you. They lower their voice. They reconsider their words. They tread lightly because your silence feels like judgment. And in that space, without raising your tone or lifting your hand, you gain a kind of psychological dominance that no amount of aggression could ever create. When people can't predict you, they start inventing myths about you. That's how intelligence becomes power. The last two signs are not skills, they are transformations. At this stage, your weakness has been broken apart, stripped down, exposed, tested, and reshaped. What once felt like fragility now feels like distance. What once felt like fear now feels like perspective. What once felt like loneliness now feels like sovereignty. You no longer think like others, and you no longer need to. This is the ascension, the moment your mind stops reacting to the world and begins quietly controlling it. The ninth sign rises slowly, almost unnoticed: visionary detachment. You begin seeing the world as a system, not a series of emotional events. You understand people not as individuals, but as patterns of behavior. You notice the structure beneath conversations, power dynamics, insecurities, hidden agendas, the psychology humming beneath every interaction. You see why some people need chaos, why others seek dominance, why most repeat the same failures over and over again. This level of perception dissolves the illusion that life is personal. It isn't. It's structural, predictable, mechanical. You begin seeing the entire board instead of just your squares on it. This is not coldness, this is clarity. You stop taking offense because you see the insecurity behind the insult. You stop chasing people because you see the emptiness behind their validation. You stop fearing loss because you understand that everything you lose reveals something you were meant to outgrow. Weak personalities break when the world shifts, but you begin adapting instantly because you're no longer attached to your position on the board, you're attached to the strategy guiding it. Visionary detachment is the liberation of the intelligent mind from the emotional noise of ordinary life. And then the 10th sign arrives: emotional sovereignty. The final ascension, the moment your inner world becomes untouchable. You no longer react to disrespect, provocation, or manipulation because your value is no longer tied to the opinions of others. Insults pass through you like wind because you no longer identify with the version of you that could be wounded by them. You no longer swing between extremes because your emotions no longer sit in the hands of other people. You choose what enters your mind. You choose what disturbs your peace. You choose what earns your attention. And that choice is the essence of power. Where weak personalities crumble under pressure, yours stabilizes. Where others lose themselves in emotion, you anchor yourself in perspective. Where most react instantly, you wait, observe, decide. Nothing external can seduce or provoke you because you understand the oldest truth in power. Control is never taken, it is surrendered. You stopped surrendering, and in that refusal, you became sovereign. This final evolution is what Machiavelli described without naming: the invisible ruler. The person who governs not through domination but through anticipation. You no longer need to prove yourself. because your silence proves more than your words ever could. You no longer need to assert power, because your restraint carries the weight of certainty. You no longer fear chaos, because your mind no longer bends to it. It studies it, predicts it, outlives it. You began this journey with weakness, overthinking, overfeeling, isolation, confusion, a mind too loud for a personality too soft. But every fracture became instruction, every wound became insight, every collapse became a lesson in control. You learned not by succeeding, but by being forced to face truths most people spend their life running from. And in that confrontation, you built something unshakable. Now, your silence is strategy. Your detachment is power. Your discernment is protection. Your mind is no longer a battlefield, it is a throne. You have become dangerous, not because you know everything, but because you know when to say nothing. Power is no longer external, it is embodied. Authority is no longer expressed, it is felt. Intelligence is no longer a burden, it is the architecture of your sovereignty. This is the seventh sign transformed, the point where the weakest personality becomes the rarest one. A mind that sees the world clearly, moves through it quietly, and remains untouched by its noise. You are no longer reacting to life. Life is reacting to you. You've become what Machiavelli called the invisible ruler, the one who commands by anticipation, not command. And that is the final truth. You're not dangerously smart because you know everything. You're dangerously smart because you know